Let me put this on mute and get my disclaimer.
Hey, what's up,
I don't
everybody?
even
What's up,
know if I
everybody?
have a
Welcome
show.
to the show. This is A.L. Johnson with Elevated Men, and we're back with another one. Thanks for tuning in. So, last week we talked about love or marriage. And so we had a great convo around the idea that many people marry for the commercialized concept of love versus the original concept of marriage being a business. So, today we're going to hop in the time machine, travel back to the beginning of how it all starts, which is attraction and what our expectations are around sex and kind of how those expectations affect our potential for a serious and fruitful relationship. So, this is going to be a really good conversation. As always, we want your feedback, we want your comments, likes, and shares. And so, we'll be back in just 1 second. All right. So, in the words of Salt and Pepper, and it seems like they forget about Spinderella all the time, so we're gonna throw her in there as well. But let's talk about sex. Right. That's the conversation today. Just kind of how all these relationships start, why we have a lot of the issues that we have. And so, for those of you that haven't been tuning in, this is part 3 of a 4-part series, Man and Woman, or Man versus Woman, where we're tackling a lot of issues that create dissension between men and women in our community. It's an extremely important topic. As elevating men, we believe that strong families build strong communities. And if we start off with bad relationships, we can't make that happen. And so we're going to go ahead and dig into the conversation. Before I get into that, definitely want to introduce my panel real quick. To my right, we've got Andrew Boykin. He's the founder of restin2050.org, the restoration. Below him, we have Miss Devin Elisse of Lifted KC, whose focus is on men's mental health. And so we're definitely partners in that mission. And below me, we have Miss LaToya Rozoff, the owner of 79rose.com. Before we hop into it really quick, LaToya, I saw you made a post about an empowerment event that you're working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. July 9th, I am hosting a women's empowerment event at the Interurban Art House in Overland Park, Kansas. We are talking about, it's just a day of positivity, right? It's out, the world's kind of crazy right now, so we're bringing everybody together to come talk about some positive things. It's going to be some awesome synergy. We're talking about faith, we're talking about finances, we're talking about fitness, we're talking about sexuality. So a lot of things we're already talking about on this call, we're going to talk about, and we have 4 awesome speakers that are going to be coming in and sharing, and we have the opportunity for people to shop the local vendors and putting back in the local small business ecosystem. So if you are interested in getting a ticket, tickets are $30 until this Saturday, and then they go up to $40 after Saturday, and that does include brunch. And if you're interested, go to In the Black on IG, and there's a link to Eventbrite, or you can follow you can get a link from my website to 79rose.com.
Love it, love it, love it. And to all of you watching, happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. We are free. Father's Day was this past weekend. Loved it, enjoyed it. Family showed me a lot of love, and so definitely appreciated that. But let's get into the conversation. So my first question, hey, who grew up in church or, kind of went to church a little bit? Me, I know I did for sure. I was there. You were there, Devin. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
You were in the building.
Yeah, I was in the building.
You were in the building. Okay, so I don't know about you all. So let me know what your background is, because I'm trying to start from the beginning. And so my initial, hearing the topic of sex for me, it was actually at church, right? And so it was taught, not to have sex before marriage. And that was pretty much it. We didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but it was don't do it before you get married. So let's just start there, right? In general, do you feel that is good advice? Is it realistic? Does it affect the way the relationships end up long term? or does it not matter? So let's just kind of start there. I know that's a lot. I know that's a lot of seeing you cover your face, but we got to get down to business. So I'll start with you, Andrew. Ladies, I'll give you a little
I
time to
ain't cover
think.
my face.
Man,
Cover my face.
that's because you ain't shy. You already got your answer. So the advice, that advice that we heard in church, wait until marriage for sex, is that important?
It's very important. It's very important because we don't have a clue as to what sex is. And by the time we find out what sex is, it's already too late. It's too late for us to reverse what the problem is, because sex is not actually what we're having, creating, or doing. And hopefully we'll unpack that, as we go into the conversation.
Well, look, man, we in the packing house now, so to get to unpacking, like what exactly do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Sex, as I describe it, my own words. The word S stands for stressful, and the EX stands for expression. So sex is simply a stressful expression. Now, that stress is good or bad. However, stress causes some type of an anxiety in us that either desires a release, needs a release, requires a release, or is going to be released. So that stress is going to come out. So what we do is we look for ways to express that stress.
I don't think I've ever thought of it that way, but I did read it in your book. You guys can catch that on Amazon. 10 Reasons Why I Refuse to Say I Love You by A.L. Boykin. Ladies, what do you think about what he just said? SEX, stressful expressions. Is that how you view it, or is it something completely different for you? Who wants to jump in?
I will say, first off, I am not okay with going against the Bible. The Bible said no sex till marriage, so we go let that be law. But I think what I've realized growing up and what I try to incorporate with my own children is giving them the why, right? Like I feel like when I was growing up, like you said, it was just no sex till marriage and that's it. There's no explanation there, and it kind of leaves the window of curiosity open, in my opinion. And we start to try and develop or seek out, well, if you can't have sex till marriage, why? Like, what is it about it that makes it so good or bad that you have to wait? And then our natural instinct to seek, I think, kicks in. My oldest is 14, and I am very open with my children as far as explaining to them what it is. And one of the things that I talk to him about is sex comes with unforeseen consequences. And I kind of relate it to alcohol. Like I can see why they say that there's a certain age, because developmentally you're not able to understand what takes place when you drink. You don't understand what happens with your body when it goes through the processes of what alcohol does to you. And I think the same thing is with sex. You start to experience emotion, you start to see the world in a different eye. I mean, even if you go back biblically with Eve eating the fruit, it opened up their eyes to things that God was trying to protect them from. So I feel like it is very important to, like Mr. Boykin said, understand what sex is. It's more than an act. It is truly an entanglement of emotions. And if you don't really understand the design of what sex was incorporated for, which was to be fruitful, multiply within a family, a union, then we're already missing the mark and getting it wrong, and there's the cycle. So that's my take.
I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you because my thing was I never understood it until I made the mistakes myself, right? And so it took me to be, 30, 35 plus before it clicked why they said wait until marriage, because when you don't, you have a lot of unintended consequences. Having babies with people that you don't intend to be with long term being number one. And so here at Elevating Men, when we're talking about building the family structure and stronger communities, how can we do that with broken homes all over the place? And, unintentional sex is one of the main ways that happens. So, LaToya, we want to hear from you. I know you've heard everybody's kind of point of view. Where do you stand?
I say ditto to what's been said. My only caveat is like, if you don't aspire to be married, then you will have some issues waiting till for sex until you get married. Some people don't want to be married. Everyone want to be married. They just want to be in a committed relationship or not even that. So I think that's a whole different topic. I do agree about like waiting. I don't think as a young person, as a teenager, or even honestly as a young 20-year-old, that you understand the emotional connectedness that comes with having sex. There's a lot of things that come, like things been said, like, babies and, STDs and all kind of things that if you're not doing it right, that you're not prepared for. So I think I have the same sentiments as, everyone else about, should you want to be married, you should aspire, to abstain until then.
Interesting, interesting. So let's go to the comments real quick. We got Miss Nashina Nicole. Thanks for joining us. She said, medically speaking, sex is healthy and keeps you younger, relieves stress and anxiety. I agree with that. And she also said, not saying not wait until marriage, was responding to sex causing stress. Definitely, definitely. Good comment. Appreciate that. For all of you that are watching, please go ahead and give us a heart or a like, just something so that we know the audio is clear. You guys are hearing us very well. Give us a like or a heart, and please share because we want more people to be a part of this conversation. Andrew, you have something to say?
So I'm a Googler, and you can find information, whether it's going to support your thought or it could be erroneous information. He who speaks with forked tongue. But anyway, what I'd like to ask for the viewers or someone on the panel, if you are a Bible scholar, will you please direct me to where the word sex is specifically in the Bible? Because I was Googling it, and it was talking about sexual immorality. It was the context of sex before marriage, because it's talking about other things other than sex, the way that I interpret it. And the way that I interpret it is basically one man for one woman. And if a man lays with a woman before a virgin, before she is married, he must pay a dowry in order to marry her. Basically, it's talking about a business coming together, a reason for coming together. If you don't have a reason to come together, then you stay away from this avarice appetite to express yourself. So I'm looking for direction is what I'm asking, because I need to know what it is that I don't know about sex in the Bible.
Anybody got an answer to that? I can't say that I got a verse to support it or not. No. Wait a minute. We got somebody else joining us. Give me just a second so I can add them.
Now this guy knows.
He knows all about it. What's going on? Lojo Speaks. How you doing, bro?
In the building. What's going on, people?
Not much, man. We taking it back to salt and pepper. We talking about SEX, bro. SEX. So far what we've been talking about is not with all them kids you got. Ain't nobody believing that, bro. No, I'm messing with you, man. But listen, so we're talking about church and kind of what it taught us in relation to sex. Waiting until marriage, is it important? Is it not? We got a few comments here. Constance Bell, thanks for tuning in. She said, it's also a spiritual connect that some don't understand. We're definitely going to get into that. Stephen James said Leviticus, bro. If you could expound on that and let us know exactly what you mean, we would definitely appreciate that. So there's a verse of Leviticus that we need to bring into the conversation. But continuing on, so when we talk about the unintended consequences, like I kind of try to visualize how relationships come together now. And, just kind of correct me if I'm wrong, but in general, we see a person, we're attracted. We take that attraction into spending time together. Whether we met at the club, the church, the grocery store, whatever, we begin to spend time together. And that attraction comes to a breaking point where, we end up crossing that line. Now, here's where it kind of gets tricky, because a lot of times from my conversations with others and even my own life, we end up in relationships because we started having sex and we don't even know when the relationship started. Right. So I was having this conversation with someone last night. it seems to go something like, we've been in this sexual relationship for a period of time, and at some point, jealousy arises, right? Maybe it's some evening you were supposed to get together, some other plans come up, or a friend tells you that they saw him out talking to another person, and now we go in and establish the terms of the relationship. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know that's what we were doing, right? And so when it comes to that, do you feel that sex just kind of really just kind of sets a relationship off on the wrong tone? And if it does that prevent being able to have a fruitful marriage or relationship in the future? Is that something that damages the relationship to begin with? Anybody want to jump in on that?
Oh, I'm looking at Leviticus right now, and it's giving a whole lot of lists of who you're not supposed to have sex with. You know, your mother, your father's
Animals and all that.
animals, and yeah, all this sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think I remember that. Okay.
yeah. So where I'm the question. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What? So if you if you start off a relationship unintentionally because you started off with a sexual relationship, jealousy comes in the mix. So now you have to have a conversation that says, okay, it's just me and you now because we've got jealousy. I don't like the feeling, but you never really intended on a relationship. It just happened that way because of sexual jealousy. Does that prevent you from being able to have a fruitful relationship? And does that prevent you from looking at that other person as someone that you could potentially marry?
So I actually wrote about this too in my book, and basically, there's three things that I pick up on a woman when I first meet her, or when I first see her. One is somebody I will definitely never even sleep with ever. I mean, she's nothing. No. Two, somebody who I will only sleep with, and three, someone who might have potential after I sleep with her. Now, the reason why those three things that I can assess within the first couple of seconds of looking at this particular person is because of my program. And my program is flawed. My program is damaged. I just finally understood that. I finally understood why I'm looking at those three things in that particular person versus looking at that entire person, because I've already assessed a sexual nature or my sexual requirement from that particular person. And I've already either trashed her or placed her in a category or placed her sex in a category, not her.
I get that. I get that. And especially like with social media, so everybody's looking for attention. So if you go in, the average person's story or how they present themselves online, everyone wants to show their sexual prowess, so to speak. And so does that have anything to do with it? The way that she presents herself, through her clothing, or like what helps you determine that? Andrew, I think he's frozen.
Oh no, I'm not frozen. I was waiting on.
Man, you was like a
Devin
perfect statue, bro. You just had the whole little pose there, man. You didn't even blink.
I'll jump in. I think that the original question was, does jealousy stop a relationship from moving forward? And I would say it could. Yes, it could. One, again, all those emotions that come up, when you start, being physical with somebody. And I think you have these stages. Every relationship has that lust stage, right? When you first get with somebody and then you just want to be with them and them only and things like that. So that's like that lust stage. I think that it can stop a relationship from moving forward if you don't have two adults that can talk through it, right? So you make that decision. Yes, I want to be with you. This is what we're talking about, or no, let's end it. So I think to me, it's really that simple. When those feelings come up, if you get to the point where you need to have that adult conversation about next steps and you decide if you really want to be with that person. But I think you kind of have to be out that lust stage for that to occur.
Mm-hmm. So
See, that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's that? What's that transition out of the lust stage look like? Right, because like I said, with me, we're attracted. We begin a sexual relationship. Jealousy pops in. Now we've got to have a conversation. How does that transition into a serious relationship? Like, what type of conversation needs to be had? Like, what specific points? What are your thoughts on that? Just some clarification.
So for me, when when we have sex or transitioning out of that lust phase, how that transition happens is she usually opens her mouth the next day and says something that was not discussed during the courting phase, during the playful stage, during the stage that we were coming closer and closer until our bodies actually connected. Meaning she actually told me something about her dreams, her aspirations, her desires. And that bored me because I was like, hey, no, I'm not going in a direction. So see you.
Mm, get
That
that.
is
I get
like
that.
cutthroat. Oh man.
Jeez, Mr. Morgan, are you married?
But I mean, that might be like, and I think it's interesting that you say that because I, I, be it right or wrong, I think that when you hear people that like cheat, whatever, male or female, like a man could like say it was just sex, that was it, and go home to their wife like nothing ever happened. So, and I always thought that was ridiculous. But the older that I get, I realize that I think some people you can do that. Like there's no emotional attachment. It's just, I mean, it's wrong, right? I'm not gonna validate it, but I think like some people, I mean, that can, and vice versa. I think nowadays for women too. I think sometimes people can just, if you're not emotionally connected to somebody, you can just have sex with somebody, not even friends with benefits. It's just
So,
like, it's just that kind of what Mr. AB was saying. He has these categories for people, and I think that gets established.
So the first words you said was lust. I mean, not before you said lust after somebody, and then you have sex with them. For me, when I hear that, I don't have sex with them and then lust for them, meaning I already have this lustful nature inside of me that I now go out and seek something, someone to express that lustfulness for. And the way that I express it through is usually sex. So is sex the actual vehicle or is sex the result of something else that I'm feeling?
yeah, because like when we talk about men's mental health a lot, we talk about the fact that we're always looking for a way to cope with our issues because we don't express them openly through conversation. And so, like you said, it could be a long week of frustration, whether it be with business or other relationships. And the weekend comes, the liquor starts pouring, and you're looking for a way to release all of that anxiety. And so you go out to the club and you're scoping and you're looking. And so that makes sense. That makes sense. I see where you're coming from. I want to hop in the comments really quick. We appreciate you all's comments. We got quite a few here, so I want to go through a few of them. Thank you all for tuning in. Also, if you could just like and share the broadcast so more people know that this conversation is going on, we definitely appreciate it. We got Robert Hawkins. He said, I say that sex and intimacy is a whole deeper level than the surface and appearances. Sex, you are exchanging energies. You are combining yourself with someone and who they are in their essence. So if you have more than one partner, you are entertaining a lot of energies and intermingling chaos on a deeper level than you see. Wholeheartedly believe that. Definitely believe that. It looks like Stephen James found that verse, Leviticus 18, do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. That's wild. Do not have sexual relations with either her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. They are close relatives. This is wickedness. Do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have relations with her while your wife is living. A whole bunch of good advice that could kick off some fireworks for sure, for sure. The Bible is real, ain't it? Mm. All right, we got Miss Lynn. Thanks for tuning in. It says, yes, what Constance said, spirit attachment. You exchange energies, even not good ones, unknowingly. Let me stop there real quick because I see that conversation online a lot about the energy exchange. Have any of you, can you speak to having relations with someone and you feeling that it pulled your spirit down in some type of way, or this connection with that person was a drain to you and you were able to tie it back to the sex? Anybody had that experience before? Lauren says no, all of his has been good. I get it. I get it. No, Devin, no. LaToya, nobody?
Well,
I had,
so
I mean,
I
I
think,
got to
but okay. So when you
go
talk
ahead,
about
Devin.
energy, when you talk about energy, like I think that's when you start to get on a more intimate level. Like sex on a basic level, you're not even really thinking about that type of stuff. You know, you're not thinking about energies releasing outside of the one. You know, I mean, you're not really thinking that deep. You know, you're just thinking on a surface level. You know, this feels good. You know, you're focused on the feeling, so maybe it feels good or it doesn't feel good. But you're not really focused on a deeper level of energy. That's when you really start to get into the intimacy phase. Which once you're into the intimacy phase, uh, I have to hope that there's some type of a relationship of some capacity, or at least there's some intention. Other than that, it's just sex. Whether it's a release of tension or it's just I got a Jones in my bones. So
Mm.
I'm from the old school. I'm just the opposite. It takes a lot of energy to have sex, and when I say it takes a lot of energy to have sex, meaning my first impression is my best impression, meaning I have to make sure that one, I have the internal energy to rise to the occasion. Two, I have to think of something to make sure that the occasion lasts longer than my rise. Three, the list goes on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until it's over. And then when it's over, that's usually when our energy start to relax. The release has taken place, and then my eyes open, and then the intimacy enters, meaning that moment when there's just our realities that are there. Can I accept what comes out of her mouth? Can I accept her heart? Can I accept who I'm laying next to? Can she accept me? Am I even going to even tell her about me? No, that was not part of the deal. That was not part of the bargaining in the first place that I built all my energies up to. I built all my energies up to just to release. That was my sexual expression. The intimacy, I didn't ask for anything after that. Now comes the problems.
Mm. Mm.
And I think
And
that's probably the biggest issue in sex is people being in different pages, on different pages or whatnot, and not communicating. Like I feel like it, everything, especially for our culture, is so taboo. But once we get to the point where we can openly dialogue about conversations such as sex, mental health, future, like if you went into a room and you was just like, I'm just looking up, and be real with yourself. I think people aren't real with themselves, which means they can't be real with the person they're meeting. So the expectation is already tainted because you don't even know why you're approaching this person. Yeah, it's sexual, but what is it inside of you that is even making you desire a person or be attracted to this person? Like I think we need to really start learning us, and it will answer questions as to how and why we approach who we approach, who we're attracted to, and then setting those expectations up front. Like I think again, to each its own. If you're going into a situation like they just fine and I just want to screw them, then be real. Let that be what it is. But people aren't that open to doing that out of fear of, again, the other person might want intimacy and now you just probably compromised your opportunity to get what you want. So now you're appeasing to another person, and then now you're in this um toxic relationship because your intentions that brought you together were not the same in the beginning.
see, I
that's
think for
that's
men, I think for men, uh, you know, and I can't speak for all men. I'll just say that when those comments or if a statement like that is made, uh, especially for men that are just, they only have one true purpose with that interaction. I think they're okay with that. I think where the breakdown comes in a lot of times is on the female side where maybe there's a compromise. Maybe they're like, no, I wanted something more, but there was a compromise that made you say, well, I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway. And I'm sure that can be for guys as well. But I feel like a lot of times, maybe One person has one intention and another person is hopeful for something more and maybe wouldn't have jumped into it so quickly, but then they're not willing to lose something, and so they take the risk and go ahead and go in.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I want to, and we're already kind of touching on it, but there's a comment here from Constance Bell. You've been making some great comments. Definitely appreciate it. People, please heart, all of those things. Let people know about the conversation and please share. But she said men are wired different than women. Most men can just have sex with someone, but most women want that connection and emotions. And so, since we have women on the panel, this is something we don't do very often. Let me ask that question directly to you because a lot of times we assume we know how each other thinks. But from your perspective, is that true? Is that a true statement?
I
Uh,
think maybe 10 years ago. I mean, I feel like because of social media in today's culture, you have women that are just as and I use this term but don't carry much weight with it. But I think there's women that are just as ruthless as men that don't want any commitment. They don't want any um nothing other than sex. And again, we're so we're not used to expressing our wants and our needs that we end up defaulting into these relationships. But I think there's been times even for myself that I will look at a man and be like, he look like he might be a good lay, but he's not somebody that I would foresee myself with years down the line. And that's just on first instinct, like Mr. Boykin said. So I think it can go both ways, especially in this generation, this culture, this day and age.
So, can I ask a question based off of that before you jump into it? So, the question that I would have, just based off of that comment, is uh, if women, if there's some women that can be as ruthless as men, is it because there was another intention, and so the sex was just a way to keep him in, so you can get what you want?
I Go ahead, Devin.
Are you
Sorry.
asking me, or you just because I would say it all goes back to what I represent, which is mental health. I think everything stems from some sort of trauma. I don't think we were designed to not want intimacy and companionship. I feel like God's design was that specifically when he created Adam and realized that he needed a partner. So we were not designed to be by ourselves, but because hurt, because of childhood trauma, because of different sexual traumas that we've experienced, it's rewritten our sexual DNA for what we desire. And like we were talking about in our last episode, there's things that can happen to us as a child that either allow us to gravitate to or run away from. And I think that's what we're seeing more prevalent in today's culture, where we have more women that are promiscuous because they're dealing with these unresolved daddy issues or sexual trauma that was never treated, never discussed. And the same for men, like even with my walk in mental health and talking to men that God are placing in my life, it has blown my mind the amount of men that have experienced sexual trauma as a child. Like again, there's a stigma, and I was so just oblivious to it. Like I just thought it was always women. It was always people that look like me. I would have never thought that men were carrying sexual trauma too. So it's cycles that we need to break. And I think everything just stems from, the past. But that's, you know.
Got it. Thanks.
Love it. You had a comment, LaToya?
I do. I have a whole different thought about current state right now. I think I think men and women could be unemotionally attached in relationships and just want sex. I think now I don't blame social media. I think social media just has made that more apparent. I think it's been since beginning of time. You had women and men who just for whatever reason had carried themselves in different manners. I think the evolution of women and the progression of women in society have given women, empowered them to be more assertive about what they want from a sexuality perspective. I'm not gonna say it's right or wrong because everyone has their own journey, but I think I just take it from a different angle as you think about like women's rights and women's health and the progression of women in general. um Now we're at a time where women are, financially independent, financial, they're sound in other areas of their life, whereas maybe, sex in a relationship, it's a different factor, if that makes sense.
So how can we look at uh, just sex itself, right? And how do we identify whether or not we are entering a unsafe zone, right? Because you know the actual act of before you are really even thinking about relationships, are we entering an unsafe zone when maybe we have sex, like the sex, but may not like the person? Is that where it gets dangerous?
Can I could I say something?
For sure.
Hey, will you go up to Robert G. Hawkins' comment where he says, first of all, get past the person's anatomy?
Okay, let me 1 second. 1 second. For those of you that are tuning in, we definitely appreciate you being here. Continue liking and commenting. Share as well so we can get more people added to this conversation because different perspectives really helps us get to the point. Here's the comment here. Let me know if I got it right. First of
That's it.
all, get past the person's anatomy. Try being mature enough to develop a deep sense of relationship with a person before you want to have sex with them. Sex has become so pointless these days because it has become a recreation due to callous hearts. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew?
So my thoughts on that, because Devin was talking about a history of trauma and stuff like that that will make you run or whatever. And LaToya was talking about the empowerment of women nowadays. And I think Lauren was talking about are there deeper reasons why? So if and I'm not an engineer, but if we reverse engineer this, that trauma that occurred at some point in our lives, callous hearts cause us to recreationally sex to the point where it's just pointless, where persons they don't seek a deeper relationship. And what we do is we immediately start to look at a person's anatomy to go back to, again, self-soothe.
Mm.
But that callous hearts was the key that made me clue in on that. How did the calluses get there? What made the heart so hard that now we are in this moment?
So it's good. Anybody want to add to that point? Any comments there? Okay.
We
Oh,
weren't born
sorry.
with callous hearts. We were born seeking something better than what we're doing today. It's just that we have now settled into what we are allowing this little bit of our heart to explore because we don't want the rest of it broken again.
Well, I feel like the callousness comes from expectations, unmet expectations. And so Lauren brought up a good point earlier. He was saying, sometimes women, and correct me if I'm saying this wrong, I'm probably butchering it, but sometimes women use sex as the way to get the man that they want, right? And so when we talk about, there was a post that I saw where in today's age of social media, women promote themselves sexually, although they don't want to give sex, just like men promote their power and their money, even though that's not something that they're willing to give. And so we put on these masks, we show what we feel the opposite sex wants to see, in hopes of getting what we want. And so to Andrew's point, for men, what we're looking for is a release. And for what women are looking for is, for lack of a better word, an entrapment, a way to get the man that she wants. And so my question for the ladies is, does that create competition between other women who are very open sexually versus a woman who says, I'm looking to wait? Do you ever feel pressured to have sex prematurely because, hey, there's competition out here, and if I'm not doing what this man wants, I have no way of getting the man that I need in my life? Have you ever experienced that, or maybe in your own life, or from women in your family, women that you talk to? What are your thoughts? Sex as a tool.
Sex as a tool. I think that's loaded. I think oh gosh. My 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 own theory on it base, I just think that currently we're just hypersexualized as a culture, culture not being black, just culture in general. And so I personally think that leads to more casual sex just because it's just so sexualized, right? It's hyper, it's everywhere. You can't shake it. As far as a relationship, I not me personally, but I've known situations where people feel like they wanted to because they didn't want their of the other person to go. So I've seen that, yes.
Good point. Good point. We got a comment here that kind of speaks to this, and I think that age and the point that you are in life does make a difference in this sex conversation. And so we got one here from Galen. She says, "I find now at 53, single men I encounter are not as accepting for me for not wanting to friends with benefits or to have sex right away. When younger, they were okay with waiting. Older, they passed me up for not wanting to have sex right away." And so that kind of talks to the competition amongst women, those who are willing versus those who are not. How does age and place in life actually factor into this conversation? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I still go back to the callous hearts, meaning the older I am, probably the more callous is on my heart. And because my heart is not beating and pumping freely like it once was, when love was an aspiration and love was an idea that I wanted to build, it's no longer there. So I don't have time anymore to build this dream. So I care not to listen to her heart. If there's something that I'm wanting right now, because I'm starving, because I'm empty, because I'm damaged, because of that mental health thing that I've gone through for the previous 50 something years of my life, yeah, I can get sex from anywhere. So if you want to make me wait for sex, yeah, we can have a conversation. Just understand that after the conversation, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to bed early, but I'm going over her house.
Ouch.
Mr. Wicked is ruthless, but I like it. I like it. If everybody could be that honest, what would the world look like today? I like it.
We got a comment here from Keelan Powell. Keelan, thanks for joining us and appreciate all of your comments. Andrew, I just want you to touch on this because your book, 10 Reasons Why I Refuse to Say I Love You, has a lot of these types of comments in it. He says, we even have been trained to talk so vulgar about what we do during sex. It's very violent, the language. And so that talks about that stressful expression. We say, bang it, beat it up, knock it down. It's all these violent terms that we use. Can you just kind of speak to the language that we use around sex and how that in and of itself can be damaging?
Well, what this is just my belief, my own opinion, but what comes out of me is probably what's inside of me. So if that violence, if that tension, if that beat it up is inside of me and it comes out of me, someplace in my lifetime it was placed there. Someplace in my lifetime it was placed there. Now, Nico Baker, forgive me if I pronounced your first name wrong. A little earlier, she says, actually, we were born in sin. So Christ's followers has been born again and seeking community. That we were born in sin. I'm an Earth, Wind, and Fire man, and Earth, Wind, and Fire said, "Child is born with a heart of gold." Way of the world. Now I'm born into the world, but the world is not born into me at that particular time. Way of the world makes his heart turn cold.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. This is a good conversation. Good conversation. So when we talking, so we're still on the age part of it. Constance Bell, she said, "I agree with him, but do a man feeling that way will leave him alone in his old age?" So she basically saying, don't play around till you're playing by yourself. Lauren, you have a comment?
So, and this is just me kind of talking from a worldly perspective, I guess I'll say, because a lot of this conversation we've been included a lot of biblical things, and not everybody is attached, in a biblical way or in a spiritual way or anything like that. So, um, I think that maybe, you know, I mean, the biblical spin is great, but living in a secular world, I think that education becomes super important when we talk about sex, uh, because not everybody's connected to the biblical side or the spiritual side of it, and so we have to educate on the pitfalls that can occur if you take that step, or and it's the conversation is different at different ages, right? If I'm talking to my teenage son or my teenage daughter, the conversation's a lot different than if I'm talking to somebody that's in my age group, or something like that. And so I think a lot of times, we dive so deep into the biblical side of it that you can kind of lose that young mind or even that immature mind that may not have that connection but can still be educated in a way.
Mm, good point. Good point. So I've got a question. I've got a question. So when we talk about, let's say after you've gotten into a relationship, whether it's just a boyfriend, girlfriend, committed dating relationship or a marriage, how do you feel that your past encounters with sex, whether that be, like meeting a person, having sex right off the bat and it doesn't go well, to dealing with someone who is dealing with more than just you, and maybe you're accepting of it at the time because that's just the place that you're at in your life. How does that affect your jealousy, your apprehension, your non-belief of a future partner? So has that ever seeped into a relationship? Your experiences previously, sexually, does that affect your current relationship in any type of way? And I can say, just as a man, let's just say as men, when we talk about men's jealousy, a lot of it comes from our youth, right? And so we go out, we're promiscuous, we meet women who are in line with that thought process, right? And so then we start to develop these ideals that all women are secretly this certain type of way, right? And so maybe you get with a good woman and she normally doesn't go out, but she goes out for the first time. And now he's looking at this as a red flag when it's something that's normal, right? And so as women, I know you've dealt with some jealousy from men. I believe that it goes both ways. A woman who's seen men cheat, maybe she has brothers, maybe her father or uncle, she saw what they did. How does that affect you in your relationship when you're dealing with another person?
Heal, heal, heal. Sheesh. Like, I can't promote it enough. I just say, even in my own experiences, um, again, I was just oblivious, and I know Lauren was talking about education. We educate our children, but I think there are so many adults that are still partaking in the sexual act, uneducated on what sex is, what it's intended for. And I had to relearn healthy sex through counseling, because when you experience trauma, you see that it's done, and just being transparent, when it's not supposed to be done, it's done in secrecy. So that's what you develop. So every time that you encounter sex, you feel like it has to be done a certain way, how you experienced it when it was unhealthy, and you take that into every relationship, so you're not open to intimacy because all you know is the act of sex, right? I say again, my biggest thing is healing, counseling. You will unintentionally take pain into every relationship, whether identified or unidentified, and you're going to bleed that into every relationship. So I encourage healing. I encourage having conversations. Like, I don't think I've ever been as vocal about sex um until like the last 3 or 4 years, thanks to counseling, because I realized that there is a healthy entity of sex. Like, sex was designed for a purpose, so it's not this no, don't do it thing. It's making sure that when you're doing it the right way for the right reason, and making sure that you are having conversations and communicating your intent and your expectations with it. I don't go into anything blindly, and I am a lover regardless of all the pain that I've endured. I feel like God has just blessed me with a heart that doesn't build many calluses around it. So I am always open for love, and I'm a lover. I'm a hopeless romantic. I want everybody to be in love. So I feel like we have to just really focus on being true to ourselves and healing so that we can experience just the magical aspect of intimacy, relationships, and sex. And that's my little spiel.
I love that. I love that. Talk to him. Talk to him. I'm gonna be
Mm.
quiet now.
So the beauty of that is we're talking about sex, and here comes this guy. So we can talk about sex all you want. We can actually, you know, get into some deep conversations about sex. But understand, sex and love are two different words. They have two different meanings. And then
Absolutely.
you mentioned the word purpose. Love and purpose have two different meanings. Meaning all these words are totally different. And from my standpoint, a male who has created all of this callousness and pain, and that's a whole different conversation. That women are now reacting to and that women are now catching up on, um, this callousness, this sex, um, it's whatever you want to talk about because I already know what I want, when my expiration date, or when your expiration date will hit, and what I want next, unfortunately, because I'm still looking for me and that healing to my callousness. And I'm looking at it thinking that I can get it out of you, not from you, but out of you.
But I think that's the important. I think that's the importance of uh, waiting and being more cautious, right? When you talk about callousness, I think both parties come to the table with some level of it, or different experiences of why they are callous. When you even when you think about, I'll just use my experience, of being a teenager, right? And you know, sex wasn't a release for me. Sex was a way for me to try to prove my manhood because my father wasn't there, right? So I was just really trying to find a way to prove my manhood, and I think for a lot of young people, it's a proving, it's a measuring stick, right? And maybe that goes further into all people. It's just a measuring stick, and so I think that is a great reason to be more cautious and have more intentional conversation, even if the conversation is, hey, we just both in it, to have sex and that's it. We're not trying to build any type of deeper relationship. You at least need to, uh, take enough of a pause, instead of reacting to the juice and the juice getting you loose, to make sure that that callousness doesn't extend itself even further, right? Because you got two people with calluses on their hearts, and all they doing really is it's like passing a virus back and forth almost.
Mhm.
Uh, um, so we're getting close to the end of the show. This is a great conversation, but
Oh,
before we get too close to the end, I need a bit of a wrap up statement. And so here's the question. And I'll give you guys a second to think on it. But elevating men is about building stronger families and stronger communities. And so, can we tie sex to family? At the end of the day, what do we need to do and what do we need to be aware of when it comes to our sexual relationships and how that impacts overall how our community functions? Right? Because again, if we have all these broken homes, we have all this jealousy, we have all this mistrust. I'll even throw this out there as well. There's a statistic that talks about how things enter our brain and enter our subconscious mind. We can hear something at such a low level from very far away that our subconscious will pick it up, even if we didn't actually hear it. So if you consider the TV shows that we watch, if you consider the music that we listen to, all of it is about sex. But most importantly, a lot of it's about cheating. Like I don't know about y'all, but before we got on the live stream here, we were talking about music a little bit, right? And one of the things that I noticed specifically in the black culture, when we listen to our R&B and things like that, like I put together a mixtape, right? I'm like, hey, this is the slow jam set for tonight, right? But then you got to skip through half of it because most of the songs are about cheating, right? Or they're bringing up, bad feelings and bad emotions, and so here we are making love to like, I'm cheating with you and you cheating on him, and all of these different things, and so, man, it's a mess. How do we have better sexual relationships, and how can we tie that into a better community? Who wants to start? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
I can start.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, LaToya.
Ladies first. Ladies first.
Yep.
I was gonna say it really comes down to transparency and being an adult, right? An adult, right? So regardless if you are faith based or not, if you like whatever, when it comes to sex relationship, be transparent and communicate those up front. If you meet somebody and it's just friends with benefits, communicate up that front and make sure that you guys are both on the same page. And if not, I guarantee you can find somebody that is on the same page with you. And then when it comes from a family perspective, let's teach our kids and have these open conversations. I know in my household, it was taboo. We didn't talk about it. And that's one thing I'm going to do different with my son is make sure that I'm transparent and communicating the whys and the things that he should be doing. He's going to make decisions that I might not like, but at least he's educated and knows right from wrong. So I would just say communicate, be transparent. That'd be my advice.
Love it, love it. Who would like to hop in next?
Andrew,
Andrew, you had something?
So up here, right before you flashed Stephen James, there was Robert Hawkins' comment. And did you know that every word spoken is an energy of itself? So what we feed ourselves in words has its own responsibility. So my fix is stop having sex, because for me, that word says that I am looking for something that's coming in this direction. I need something. So that means that callousness, those calluses, I'm trying to heal those calluses or something inside of me, and I'm looking outside of me to bring it in to try and fill this hole. If I stop having sex and start loving, let's say we use that word, loving goes in that direction. Now, many of us, like that comment says, we don't fully understand the definition of these words. Love is not about me. Love is about what I do. It's an action word. It goes outward. It's what I do. It's what I give. It's for someone else. It's for something else. So it's for community. It's for building. So if I'm having a conversation about sex, then if you don't know that word sex says that underlying, it's about me. And if you're participating in that conversation, I'm just listening to what you want out of this, because this is just negotiation about our own selfishness. If it's about love, and I understand that love is what I'm giving, and love is what you're giving, that's a different conversation. So that's about building.
Love it, love it. Let's see where we at. No, Devin. Just final thoughts. Sex and community.
So I just say we owe it to ourselves to learn us, right? We're not responsible for our trauma, but we are responsible for our healing. As far as tying sex into family, we owe it to our communities to be transparent with ourselves, with our partners, with our children, and break these generational cycles of the taboo of we're not going to talk about that. Start talking religion, politics, credit, sex, all the things that I wasn't taught. I teach my kids that. I'm working on my credit, and I have my 14-year-old sitting alongside of me watching so that he can see the mistakes not to make, but he can see the benefits of what having credit does. Same thing. When he came to me about sex, I was elated that he trusted me to come to me in the first place to even talk about it. So, but that's because that's the culture that I've set in my home. So I think, again, we didn't cause our trauma, but we owe it to ourselves to heal so that we can be better for ourselves, for the people that we encounter, for our families, and then we'll make better communities like Mr. Johnson. So That's my spiel.
Love it, love it. Lojo speaks. Final thoughts, bro.
Education and communication. It's as simple as that for me, and we have to educate our children at young ages because sex is whether or not whether or not we like it, like they're super exposed to it. So we have to educate them. We have to have honest conversations, not the bubble wrap message, but the full honest conversation. And then we need to act the same way. We need to practice what we preach. We need to have open communication when we are thinking we want to engage in that behavior, to make sure that it is safe, whether it's safe for us, whether it's safe for them, because maybe it's just not safe. Maybe neither of us are at a great point where we need to engage in that activity because it's just going to take us down a rabbit hole. So, education, open, honest communication.
Love it, love it. Hey, everybody that's still watching, if you could do us one last favor on your way out as we close the show, give us one more like, give us one more heart. We definitely appreciate you being a part of the conversation, and share this so that more people can hear these types of conversations, because we believe that it's extremely important. Go and check out our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, type in Elevating Men, that will allow you to catch up on all of our archives, see previous conversations that we have, so you can kind of see how we think and what it is that we're trying to do here at Elevating Men. Again, we appreciate each and every last one of you. This is part 3 of our series, Man and Woman, or Man versus Woman. And so next Monday, 8 p.m., we're going to be back for another great conversation. Put it on your calendar. Lojo, you had something that you wanted to say.
I just wanted to say real quick, shout out to our brother LaRon Barnes. Today is his birthday, so happy birthday to you, brother.
Yes, happy birthday. I wish you could have been a part of this conversation. It's been awesome. AB.
If anybody knows anybody who needs life insurance, it doesn't even have to be somebody related to you. See my man A.L. Johnson. If anybody knows anybody who's looking for a car, see my man Lojo Speaks. If anybody knows somebody who is doing what LaToya does, LaToya and Devin, y'all do y'all because I don't know y'all that well. So
then we start with LaToya. Tell us about 79 Rows real quick.
Yeah, 79 Rows is the premier dress shop for curvy women. Our mission is to empower women to embrace their curves and boost self-esteem.
Love it, love it. And Miss Devin, Lifted KC.
Lifted KC is a local non-for-profit. Our current initiative is Men Heal, focusing on the men becoming better men so that they can become better fathers for their family. Families create better communities. Communities create a better world. LiftedKC.org is our website, or follow us on Facebook at Lifted KC.
Yes. And the last comment here that I'm going to put on display, we've got Miss Constance Bell, and she asked, are y'all located in Kansas City? Yes, we are. Appreciate you all. And so tune in next week. Like I said, next Monday, 8 p.m. We're going to be here, same time, same place, Elevating Men. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.